that had been spotted by U.S. aircraft. They issued a strike order and sunk the boat, killing 11 people. Um, the second strike appears to have been a follow-up. So I should add that that first strike immediately came under fire, not just from Democrats, but from kind of across civil society asking, what's the legal justification? Because the typically when the military has a strike order, there is a robust kind of legal vetting process that goes through to make sure that these are indeed enemy combatants. The US military is not allowed to simply fire and kill civilians, regardless of whether they're in the United States or not anywhere in the world. They have
Hmm.
to be designated as enemy combatants with, real kind of justification and in the US we would call probable cause.
Sure.
So um, we immediately started asking, right, where's the legal justification for this? The administration essentially sort of hand waved and said, oh, yeah, 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 no, we have total authority to do it. And then post hoc, kind of after the fact, started to try and search around for what's the legal justification.
Hmm. When we come forward, I want to.
We,
I'm sorry, hold that thought 1 second, Carrie. I want to get your second point, but I want to probe this notion of legal justification. Just getting started with Carrie Lee, Senior Fellow of Strategic Democracy Initiatives at the German Marshall Fund, breaking down these drone attacks on these boats that are killing civilians apparently without a legal justification. We'll talk about that more with Carrie Lee when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Generous listening.
Charitable listening.
It's why everybody wants to talk to Tavis. The conversation continues when we come forward.
This is the story of the one. As a custodial supervisor at a high school, he knows that during cold and flu season, germs spread fast. It's why he partners with Granger to stay fully stocked on the products and supplies he needs, from tissues to disinfectants to floor scrubbers. All so that he can help students, staff, and teachers stay healthy and focused. Call 1-800-GRANGER, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Severe from Vicks.
Sinex Severe Nasal Spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Severe instantly relieves nasal congestion and works 6 times faster than nasal decongestant tablets. The 12 hours of relief allow you to get back to the moments that matter without congestion.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Try Sinex Severe from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Hey, KBLA 1580 delegation, your health matters to us. We know that information is power, especially when it comes to prevention and treatment. That's why we're proud to introduce the brand new KBLA Health and Wellness Hub. This online space is built just for you, connecting our community to trusted health resources, culturally relevant care, and even access to diverse clinical trials and emerging therapies. Whether you're looking for information on common conditions, mental health support, or just want to stay on top of your wellness journey, we got you. And the best part, it's all on our website at kbla1580.com. Accessible, empowering, community-focused. So just go to kbla1580.com and click on the Health and Wellness Hub icon, because knowledge is power and your health is everything. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in.
But we're okay with that.
You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Carrie Lee, Senior Fellow of Strategic Democracy Initiatives at the German Marshall Fund. We're talking, in case you just tuned in, about these attacks that you keep reading about in the news. These Donald Trump and his team are just blowing up boats and oftentimes killing civilians without a legal justification. You mentioned a moment ago, Carrie, that when people started raising these questions about what the legal justification was, they sort of waved their hand, then after the fact started searching for something. to explain to us what their legal justification is. Where have they landed at this point, or not, as it were, on the question rather, of legal justification for this?
So the administration still hasn't really provided a definitive legal justification for the strikes. And the excuse that they're using right now are that these are narco terrorists, and so they are trying to fold this into the war on terrorism and a lot of the justifications that administrations since the Bush administration have used to go after terrorists abroad. This doesn't really hold water
Right.
because this is drug trafficking. It's a purely civilian, traditionally kind of policing action, and it's not holding a lot of water with legal experts right now. But that's how they're trying to frame it, is that because they're part of the war on drugs, and some of these groups have been labeled by the Trump administration as foreign terrorist organizations, they're saying, well, we're just going after narco terrorists.
Mm. What kind of no naivete here, but what kind of blowback can we expect, or what kind of blowback, put another way, is even possible if we continue this process of blowing up boats and killing civilians?
So there's an obvious international component to it. Already, the Venezuelan de facto president, Nicolas Maduro, has made a lot of noise about this because these are Venezuelan boats. So if Maduro decides to escalate tensions, you could end up with some real problems in the Caribbean and international problems. Maduro also has other levers that he can pull. We remember there was a kind of intentional migrant crisis that happened in South America, and then an unintentional migrant crisis as the Venezuelan economy collapsed that caused real migration challenges for the United States as they made their way through Central America and up into the US. So there's a real international component here that puts the United States openly kind of in hostility with Venezuela. Other problems, right, have to deal with other nations. And if the United States has decided that it can go after drug smugglers and drug traffickers from Venezuela, that means any country is fair game, right? You can also talk about going to war with Venezuelan drug criminals, and what does Mexico have to say about that? Does that open up the possibility of strikes against Mexican cartels in our southern, like along our southern border? So there are big implications here that go beyond just one attack on a Venezuelan boat in the Caribbean. If this becomes precedent, and if the Trump administration decides that this is the way that they're going to approach the drug problem in the United States and in the Western Hemisphere, then you're looking at military strikes potentially, again, up and down South and Central America.
Hmm. Glad you went there, 'cause that's exactly where I want to go. There are two questions I want to ask specifically about two different nations, Mexico and Haiti. Let me start with Mexico. So this is Venezuela. I've been to Venezuela a couple times. You mentioned Nicolas Maduro. I sat for a long, hours long conversation some years ago with Hugo Chavez at the presidential palace there in Venezuela. So I've been there and know something about this country and this culture, and certainly the politics inside of Venezuela. And I heard you refer to Maduro as the de facto president, and you're right about that. I get that. But it's Venezuela. But can you imagine us doing this to Mexican civilians? Are we? I mean, I hear you. I hear the frame that you put us in, that this could grow and this could escalate. But Venezuela is one thing. Mexico is on our border. That's another thing. I don't need to unpack this for you. This is your lane of expertise. But can you imagine us starting to blow up boats with Mexican civilians on?
Uh, I think that the Trump administration has started a normalization process
Wow.
where the American public and other international leaders are getting used to the idea that, the United States is going to take military action against drug traffickers. So eventually, just like you start a normalization process with the deployment of the National Guard and Marines in Los Angeles, you start a normalization process with, National Guard folks from 7 different states outside of the metro stops where I go to work every day.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden that becomes normal and that becomes life. And eventually, yes, you end up with strikes against Mexican civilians
Yep.
because you've boiled the frog just enough and ratcheted up the temperature, um, continuing that eventually people are going to ask why they aren't
Yeah.
conducting strikes against Mexican civilians if you don't stop this early and you don't push back against this early.
I've been around long enough to to say the following: that if they are normalizing blowing up boats with civilians on it, given what they've done to these Venezuelans, and if your read is that this normalization could, in fact, lead to the blowing up of Mexican of boats with Mexican civilians on it, then I know the answer to the question I was about to pose. The Haitians are in trouble, Carrie. They are really
Yeah, the Haitians are in
they're
trouble.
really in trouble. I mean, we have so little regard and respect for Haitian life and for Haitian independence. This is a nation of resilient people. I've covered this Haitian issue more times than I can count in my career. I've been to Haiti a number of times as well, and interviewed presidents there, interviewed Preval in my career, interviewed Aristide in my career. So I've been fortunate to travel the world and to talk to a lot of people in a lot of places. But I am always troubled by, and troubled isn't a strong enough word. I have a certain angst about, a certain anger about the way we have maltreated these Haitian people just off our border. And don't get me started on that. But my point is that if this is a normalization that we are experiencing, then I think it's fair to say that the Haitian people and other people of color in the Caribbean are in trouble. But you tell me, that's my assessment.
I mean, and we know, I think your assessment is quite good. And we know how the president feels about Haitians, given his previous statements,
That's
going
right.
all the way back to his first administration.
That's right.
So, Haiti, unfortunately, right, is not a country that gets a lot of political attention in the United States. And not certainly not the way that Mexico does. They don't have dedicated, great constituencies that can exert a lot of political pressure, again, the way that Mexican Americans do and that the Mexican community does. And so if you end up on this slippery slope, where Haitians have already been demonized by the highest levels, people in the highest levels of the administration, as a part of a campaign strategy, right, around crime.
Mm-hmm.
And crime is a famously um, easy lever to pull for the administration because it's a difficult problem for the political opposition to mobilize around, and to fight back against from a narrative perspective, right? We keep talking about these are civilians, and technically they are,
Mm-hmm.
but the way that the American public is going to read this is they're criminals. And that's the way that the administration is framing it because that's a winning narrative for them.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm not saying, right, that they shouldn't be investigated and we shouldn't be, right, that drug traffickers, if they are indeed drug traffickers, number one, we should find out before we kill them.
That's right.
And number two, if they are, they should be prosecuted.
Yeah.
But I don't think that drone strikes against boats when we haven't done due diligence to determine, number one, whether they are indeed criminals, and number two, whether they're enemy combatants that would authorize the use of military force. We should be very, very careful about
Yeah.
using military assets and using the military to do that.
So yeah, we all know that phrase of shoot first. Some people shoot first and ask questions later. They shoot first and don't care to ask any questions later. They're just shooting first. To Carrie's point, without really knowing what we're dealing with here. So
And
here,
if I can
yeah,
add, I'm
sure.
sorry, Tavis,
No,
but
no.
if I can add, like, this should be the responsibility of military officers to be asking a lot of these questions,
Yeah.
right? I would be asking, and I am asking, like, big questions about, what was the process like inside of Southcom when they authorized this strike? Because under no circumstances should senior officers in the United States military be allowing the military to conduct strikes against civilians without sufficient legal justification, full stop.
Yeah, of course, I concur with you. I suspect everybody listening to you right now concurs with you, and yet we know that ain't gonna happen. The military apparatus is not going to question the commander in chief, and that's sad. I mean, we know that one of the reasons why the African American chair of the Joint Chiefs, when Donald Trump first got back to the White House, was fired almost immediately. because they determined that he would not follow the kinds of orders that Donald Trump may have given him to follow if they were in violation of the Constitution. And so out goes the African American chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But this apparatus, this military apparatus, and of course they're built that way. They are not going to question the commander in chief. Let me put a pin in that for a second because I want to pivot. I'll come back to this, but let me do it right quick. What is your read? And I've got questions about why Congress isn't stepping up doing its job in this regard. But what's your read of the way? And you're making this point. Let me just call it what it is. The military is being politicized. Donald Trump is politicizing the military. How do you read that?
I think that, I mean, you're exactly right. And those of us in the civil military relations community have been screaming about this for a while. But the one of the ways that you consolidate power is to ensure that folks who can push back against you either don't have the incentives to or are too weak to do so. The military is the number one coercive apparatus in the state, right? It's the most powerful organization, the largest organization in the United States. And so you have to ensure that people are loyal to you. And that's what Donald Trump is doing right now. Now, that being said, I'm gonna gently disagree with you about the professionalism of those still in senior ranks. I think there's been a huge chilling effect and it's a real problem. I don't know that we're at the place yet where senior level officers are going to, explicitly disobey patently unlawful orders. I think there was a process foul inside the Pentagon somewhere that led to these strikes on the Venezuelan boat that I deeply hope gets corrected, and there's lots of oversight by Congress. But it is a very clear pattern that Trump is more interested in loyalty than he is in competence. He is more interested in ensuring that military officers have him to thank for their career advancements and that he is kind of systematically eliminating folks that he perceives as being too close to the Biden administration, too close to General Milley, and folks who might think differently than he does.
Yeah.
And that's a problem for all kinds of reasons,
No,
not just power consolidation,
I
but for decision making in general.
I get that, Carrie, and I didn't mean to suggest, and if I did, let me just back up and clarify. I did not mean to suggest that the entire military apparatus, including every individual in it, has no conscience. We were talking in our first hour today about Donald Trump's lack of moral compass. I'm not suggesting that there aren't leaders in the military who have a moral compass. I'm only suggesting that if those persons speak up, they're going to be summarily dismissed. That was my point, the same way the chairman of the Joint Chiefs was dismissed. So if they
Yep.
speak up, they end up being dismissed. And so what of it? I'm sorry, your turn, your turn.
No, 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 no. I was just going to say that, like, one of the things that I've often told general officers and when doing education with them is
Right.
that there are going to be times in your career where your professional advancement incentives conflict with your obligation to the profession of arms,
Yes.
right? And you got to think very deeply and hard about where your red lines are.
Yeah.
And I hope that, senior level folks inside the military right now are doing that kind of hard thinking,
Yeah.
because while the patently unlawful orders haven't yet arrived, they're coming.
Yep. So I got 2 minutes left. I want to give it to you. I want to circle back to this notion of legal justification, or at least the lack thereof at the moment, that the administration has for blowing these boats up and normalizing this process, which could lead to the blowing up of a bunch of other boats with civilians on it who happen to be of Mexican descent or Haitian descent, et cetera, et cetera. Does the Supreme Court have nothing to say about this normalization? Is there nothing for them to say? Is there nothing for Congress to say or do about this normalization?
So it's going to take some time for it to get to the Supreme Court, right? The Newsom v. Trump case over the federalization of the Guard in California is still making its way through the appellate process. There almost certainly will be lawsuits. There almost certainly will be court cases to be decided, and so the Supreme Court is going to be able to have its say.
Right.
Whether or not it says the right thing is, we'll see.
Yep.
Congress absolutely needs to step up and do its job.
Yeah.
There should be hearings about this. And
Exactly.
I'm puzzled as to why there are not, because we all have an interest, you know, as Americans to making sure that there's appropriate oversight over military operations.
Yeah.
Because once the president starts using the military to, attack civilians, without legal justification and without due process, then we're all in a
Yeah.
lot of trouble.
Well,
And Congress should be paying attention.
As you well know, it's hard to call for an investigation, a committee investigation, if you ain't chairing the committee. And
Yep,
Democrats
that's
are
right.
not chairing any of the committees right now. I've got a tight 45 seconds here. Let me close with this. At what point do these attacks that are now being normalized, at what point do we consider them fascist in the context of the history of fascism? We've been talking about fascism and authoritarianism, but this is just another example that you think you can just go around blowing people up, civilians, with no legal justification. At what point do we put this also in the fascist authoritarian category?
I really hate that word, to be honest, because I think it gets overused, and it's a different definition, right, depending on what context you're thinking of. It is dangerous, and uh, it is it is deeply, deeply troubling for the way that we think about U.S. democracy and the way that we think about American liberty,
Yeah.
and the things that Americans stand for.
Yeah.
So, I would start calling it fascist when it starts turning against American civilians.
Yeah.
But it is certainly a lot of overreach, and I worry about the normalization of it so that it becomes, it becomes directed towards Americans.
Yeah, I take that, and I have agreed with pretty much everything you said. I think that troubling is a charitable and generous read. It's far more than troubling for me. I think we're already there, but I respect your POV on that. She's senior fellow of Strategic Democracy Initiatives at the German Marshall Fund. Her name is Carrie Lee, and I've been delighted to have had Carrie Lee on this program. Carrie, thanks for your insights. Good to have you on.
Thanks, Tavis.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Why does Tavis say when we come forward?
Because he's not going back.
And you don't have to go back either. Forward ever, backward never. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump is deploying the National Guard to Memphis, Tennessee to fight violent crime. Local Democrats, including Black State Representative Justin Pearson, are pushing back.
And until we see a tank roll in, we need to fight with all we can to prevent this from happening.
Representative Pearson says the city doesn't want troops on its streets. The National Park Service is removing or flagging slavery-related exhibits at historic sites under President Trump's directive to restore balance in U.S. history. That includes pulling the 1863 photo, The Scourged Back. Sites like Harper's Ferry and Philadelphia's President's House are under review. And the 2026 Coachella lineup is out. Young Thug and Clips join headliners Sabrina Carpenter, Justin Bieber, and Karol G. The festival runs April 10th through the 12th and 17th through the 19th in Indio, California. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Ignite your afternoons at Waba Grill's $5 happy hour with our 5-piece pork veggie dumplings and a value-sized premium beverage drink, like our tangy passion fruit lemonade. Enjoy $5 happy hour weekdays after 3 p.m. Only at Waba Grill.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Chargers are 2-0 after beating the Raiders Monday night in Vegas 20-9. 3 interceptions by the Chargers defense, which also kept the Raiders out of the end zone. The Raiders were limited to 3 field goals. The Chargers are worried about linebacker Khalil Mack. He left the game in the first quarter with what could be a serious elbow injury. Mack will have an MRI exam Tuesday morning. A couple of surprising stats in the NFL after week 2 of the regular season. The Kansas City Chiefs are 0-2 for the first time since 2014, the last time they did not make the playoffs. The 2-0 Indianapolis Colts are the first team since 1966 to play their first 2 games without having to punt. The Colts are averaging 31 points per game and have made 3 of 5 fourth down conversions. The Dodgers lost at home to Philadelphia 6-5 in 10 innings. The win clinched the NL East title for the Phillies. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., inviting you to join me weekdays at 12 noon right after Tavis Smiley here on KBLA Talk 1580. As a law school graduate and a theologian with a firm grasp of our body politic given almost 2 decades in Congress, my show is the fresh new home of an authentic, uncompromised quest for transformation and salvation, both personal and collectively, as I vigorously interrogate the theological and symbolic meanings embedded in our society. I promise to leverage my knowledge of history, theology, and both international and domestic issues to imagine an inclusive vision for the future, which I hope will inspire all of us to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as a given, not just an aspiration. So join me weekdays at 12 noon right after Tavis Smiley for 2 hours of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Peggy Carr, who I'm thrilled to welcome to this program. She's the former commissioner at the National Center for Education Statistics, who was fired by Donald Trump. You probably saw that national news story. I have her on today, I think, to sound the alarm on the quality of government data these days and the impact specifically on our nation's children. Peggy Carr, how are you today?
I am fine. How are you, sir?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I'm doing well, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak to you. Let me just start by asking, and I mean this sincerely, how are you?
Well, I'm making it day by day, 2 steps up, 1 step back, but today I'm moving forward.
I love that.
Thank you for having me. Let me just say that I have been an admirer of you for years. I followed you, and I am quite honored to be here today to have a chat with you. It is indeed a pleasure.
You are kind to say that. I am deeply moved to hear you say that. And so thank you for those kind words. And I feel similarly about the work and witness. And I do see it as a work and witness that you have done for so many years as commissioner and your work at the National Center for Education and Statistics. Let me just, that's a long title. So I want to just make sure that the audience stays with me and with you, and they follow us every step of this conversation in the brief time that I have with you. So let me just start by asking you to tell us about the work of the National Center for Education Statistics. What do they do? What do y'all do there?
Well, great question, and I'm glad you asked. Well, there are 13 recognized federal statistical agencies in this country, Tavis, and you know the top one, Census.
Yep.
And by now, you probably know very well Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's the second largest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the third largest is the one that I was running, the National Center for Education Statistics, the premier national center for education statistics in this country. We collect everything from graduation rates to how students are performing in this country to how we perform relative to other countries around the globe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what happens without those statistics, without that data? What happens?
Well, there's some interesting background that I think will help answer that question.
Okay.
The purpose or the mission of NCES, the center, is to report on the condition of education in this country. How are students doing? And interesting enough, NCES was established in 1867. Now, that sounds like a history lesson, but it's important because in 1867, Congress was concerned about how states and territories were educating children across this country. So it was established during Reconstruction and trying to understand how students are faring. And another little interesting tidbit is that Howard University was in the same congressional bill in 1867 because the focus was on freedmen, freed slaves in the same bill. So what NCES is about is to report on the condition of education for everyone. Everyone needs to be seen in these data. That is the purpose of this premier institution.
You mentioned the second largest of these statistical gathering agencies, the census being number one, the Bureau of Labor Stats number two. You mentioned that we know that's another person, the person running that department, Donald Trump, fired. And then you're number three, and they fired you. To this day, what is your understanding of why you were fired?
Well, it's a little convoluted because I have been working for the U.S. Department of Education for over 35 years. I was a career executive employee, and I was appointed to this position as commissioner in 2021 by Joseph Biden, the first Black, the first woman to ever be appointed to this position. But it's a nonpartisan position of 6 years, much like, let's say, the FBI director has a 10-year term that spans administration. Well, this one does too, 6 years.
Yeah.
So quite honestly, any president has the right to say, well, I want my own person there. So that's what they told me, that they wanted to put their own person in this position. To be quite honest, though, Tavis, I'm not only the first Black, the first woman, but I'm also the first one to ever be released from this position in the history of the U.S. Department of Education.
Yeah,
not a first I was looking for.
Yeah, I know. When I saw that story break, I was just troubled, deeply troubled by the fact you were the first one to ever be released. Let me just ask you, and I wanted to go there anyway, so I'm glad you went there. How did you process? It's a high honor, but how did you wear that garment of being the first Black and the first woman in this position?
Well, it was indeed an honor, as you are alluding to. I have served under Republicans, Democrats. That's what a nonpartisan statistical center does. And so it was not new to me to be in a position where I'm reporting to an administration that is not Democrat, is Republican. So that was not unusual. It's just how all the statistical agencies work. But I had a vision that I think was different from all the other commissioners that I served under for this position. I wanted to focus on accountability, which is what condition of education is about, but from the lens of equity. Because it's not informative to only report on how the average student is doing in this country. How are all students doing in this country? And so it's technically correct to have a representative sample, but it's also fair and moral and ethical. That is what I wanted to add.
Yeah.
And what I did add during my time there as the commissioner, even prior to that, I was the associate commissioner, leading manager for the center.
Yeah. Let me just ask you a point blank question. I'm glad you used that word equity. You and I both understand, as does this bright audience, that there's a qualitative difference between equality and equity. This country brags about equality, we scarcely believe in that. I ain't got time to unpack that, and I shouldn't say ain't to a person who worked in the education department. I do not have the time to unpack this notion of how we scarcely believe in true equality in this country. But I have become convinced that that equity conversation is something that we're just not ready for. Why does America have such a hard time talking about equity when we boast about equality?
Well, the why of it all is the really big question. And I think we both know what is really behind the why. Data are powerful. When collected in a scientific way, in a way that has integrity and validity, there's nothing like it. It's a truth teller. It is the North Star. There's nothing more powerful than good, solid, high quality data. And it cannot be ignored. It should not be politicized. And I think, unfortunately, that is what has happened, not just with education data. I mean, you've seen it, labor data, health data. It is sort of a pattern here. And I think it's because of what the truth actually is revealing when you unpack it. And that is why these statistical agencies are nonpartisan, because it's about objective, high quality, accurate data. One of the reasons why the current administration said they wanted to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education, it wasn't just me, you probably know this, Tavis, all of my staff, except for 3, over 100 staff were let go, except for 3 that reported to me as special assistants. Everyone else was gone. And many of the contractors that work for us, actually thousands of them work for us, they're also gone. But what the current administration is saying is that the results that we released, actually I was one who personally released them to the public, show that the students in this country are struggling mightily, particularly those students that are lower performing, particularly those students who were already struggling before the pandemic. So I find it ironic that there is a kill the messenger strategy that is unfolding here.
Hold that thought. You said 3 things right quick here that I want to unpack. I'll give you a chance to unpack when we come forward with Peggy Carr, former commissioner of NCES, the National Center for Education Statistics. Stay with us.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our our collective future. Visit blacklandloss.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Sometimes he fails at fitting in.
But we're okay with that.
You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
You are indeed with Peggy Carr, Dr. Peggy Carr, the former commissioner of the National Center for Education Statistics. We call it NCES, and just grateful for this time with her. There are a couple things you said I want to just come back to right quick. You were talking so beautifully and so eloquently about the power of data. What is it to your mind that scares people? In this case, we're talking about the Trump administration. What scares them about data so much? Why is data so scary to some people?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, data, if done correctly, if collected correctly, scientifically, well, it's a truth teller.
Yeah.
It is a way to have a window into all of what is happening for whatever indicator that you are analyzing. Mm-hmm. The average tells you one thing, but when you look at the entire distribution, those who are doing well at the top and those that are doing not so well at the bottom, you see a different story. In fact, what's happening here in the United States, well, let's just stick with performance. What is happening here is that students who are already struggling are dropping faster, mm-hmm. particularly since the pandemic. Mm-hmm. They're reading less proficiently than before. They're doing math poorer than before. In fact, our lowest performing students in this country are performing about as well as students did 30, 40 years ago. Mm. But students at the top, students that are higher performing, are beginning to show progress since the pandemic. Those at the 90th and the 75th percentile. So what has happened, Tavis, is a bifurcation, mm-hmm. such that the poor are getting poorer in terms of their performance for the particular indicator that we're talking about. And for those that are doing okay, they're beginning to regain ground loss. That's the kind of picture that data can provide.
Yeah. I've got two other things I want to ask Dr. Carr when we come forward in our remaining moments with her. She mentioned the Department of Education and the attack that it has been under this administration. When you spend 30 plus years in an institution, I wonder how she processes that. Number one. And number two, we know that these federal workforce cuts that we've seen happen in this Trump era means that black women are being hit the hardest. It is not lost on me, obviously, that Dr. Peggy Carr is one of those black women hardest hit by all these firings in this Trump era. I want to talk about that as well in our remaining moments with her when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you, when we fight, we win. The Youth Justice Coalition is challenging America's addiction to incarceration and discrimination. YJC works to dismantle policies leading to mass incarceration, law enforcement violence, and the school-to-prison pipeline. Their approach, transformative justice, community intervention, free LA high school, legal defense, and system monitoring. YJC promotes safety without relying on prisons. Their goal, prevent system contact and help people exit the system through direct action, advocacy, and education. Want to get involved or need help? Call 323-235-4243. That's 323-235-4243. Join YJC in creating change. When we fight, we win. KBLA Talk 1580, your voice for justice. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than Saquon Barkley, the NFL's reigning leading rusher. I'm also the NFL's leading husher. Shh, hush up back there. Wow, I might have just set the hushing record. Well, almost. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley and Dr. Peggy Carr, the former commissioner of NCES, the National Center for Education Statistics. I wish I had more time with her. I've got about a little less than 5 minutes, about 4 minutes left in this conversation. I want to cover a couple things with her right quick. The Department of Education is under assault right about now. Ronald Reagan tried this years ago, as you well recall. Donald Trump is trying it once again. When you spend 30 plus years of your career in an institution, how do you process that institution under this kind of attack, assault, and frankly, just trying to implode it?
You know, it's difficult. Let me first say, my guess is that you saw that New York Times article.
I did.
And what's interesting about that, Tavis, is that when I agreed to be interviewed for the article, I had no idea what the top line story was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
It was so important that the truth was told about the impact on Black women.
Yes.
Because it was devastating. Even me, as a model for what happened, I had no idea. Let me say something that I've said before to colleagues and people who are in our community that I think rings particularly true now, particularly for people who have been victims to what is happening at the U.S. Department of Education and others. My little, let's say, $100,000. I maybe made a little more than that, but let's say I had $100,000. It was not the same $100,000 as the person sitting next to me that didn't look like me.
Mm-hmm.
That's because I had so many people I was supporting. People who needed me, people who had not made it to the place where I made it.
Mm-hmm.
So the impact, I think, is more than meets the eye.
Yes.
On the Black community when so many of us have been devastated by what has happened.
Yeah.
I don't know where this is going, but let me just say, and you say I have a few minutes left, that when I got this position, it did not come with a voice. The position is gone, but my voice is still here.
Yeah.
I plan on speaking up, stepping up, doing what needs to be done to tell my story, and the story that I'm trying to make clear of so many other people that look like me.
Yeah. Somebody once said that every race of people ought to be judged by the best they've been able to produce and not by the worst. And Dr. Peggy Carr is among the best that our people have ever produced. And I celebrate and thank her for her work and her witness, her service to all Americans, even those that don't appreciate it, even those that don't know what she was doing on their behalf. I thank her for her service for all those years at the Department of Education, specifically as Commissioner of the National Center for Education Statistics. She was the first African-American to hold that position, the first woman to hold that position, and as she said, also the first to be dismissed from that position. But she continues to speak truth to power and to the powerless, for that matter, and I am, again, grateful to have had her on this program. Dr. Carr, thank you, thank you, thank you. You stay in my prayers, so stay strong, and if I can ever help you, you know how to reach me.
Thank you.
Good to have you on. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump is deploying the National Guard to Memphis, Tennessee to fight violent crime. Local Democrats, including Black State Representative Justin Pearson,